Hey guys, it's V Man. With me today on the Pizza Roll Diaries is Joe Cepeda. How are we doing, Joe?
All right, pretty good, Vance.
Right on. So before we were talking on the show, and the reason I wanted to hit record so quick is because we were kind of delving into some of the stuff that I kind of eat up as a filmmaker myself. We
Right.
were talking about your productions and what you were starting to do. I asked, how much longer do you have on the stuff? And you started delving into it. What can you tell me on your productions that you're currently working on
Well,
and what you're doing?
yeah, well, we're working. I'm glad you mentioned that. First, we're working on Bomber Girl, and we're trying to finish that up, but it's taking a lot longer than we anticipated because all the actors are not available at the same time, or they're available on different dates from when you have the major cast together. So we end up having to stage our scenes in which what you call the plug and play scene, if that makes any sense. That, yeah, okay, like Leslie's available on Sunday, but this other person's not available. So now we have to work around and get that other person at a later date, and then seamlessly edit the two together to make it look like they're in the same place at the same time. It just it's challenging. It's challenging. You got to work with schedules. And they're all in different states, which makes it interesting. But
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that we can't drop what we're doing at the drop of a hat and just come run and make some stuff. Hi Noah, how are we doing, man? But yeah, we can't drop everything we're doing and just come make Star Trek. Sometimes we have to edit everything to make it look like we're uh, in the same room at the same time, and that's the with the help of a good editor, it makes it look like we're there.
then
But sometimes people haven't even met on
correct,
set,
correct.
and that's trick of the camera,
That's right. You got that right. Yep. The trick of the fancy.
So how much, because you work mostly in green screen, how much of that is you guys having to do that a lot of the time?
Well, it seems like for Bomber, let's take Bomber Girl, for example. I'll say it's 80% uh, green, blue screen, and 20% live sets, and a combination thereof. A lot of, yep, putting it together. But I'll say the more we try, I think the best sets are where it's live set and green screen, blue screen. I think that kind of works the best of both worlds. In fact, we're working on a Casablanca scene this weekend that all we need is the tables and chairs. And what we find, the beauty of the, you said on the percentage, is that sometimes when we dive into the production, we come up with a better idea. So we can drop the backgrounds that we had in mind, and then later on we come up with better ones. So we could just dump it, like put a parachute on it and dump it and
Right,
come background, which is what we've done.
right,
Girl. Some of it we've gone like through 6 iterations because the bombers keep getting better. I say, well, the bomber graphics could use some work. And then we end up dumping it and then improving it. So we're pretty excited about that. Come up with better graphics for the background.
well, you guys have worked. One of the things that I enjoy about some of your productions is you guys have like physical sets, like walking through,
We do.
and yeah, and it's you don't talk a lot about your sets, like and like some people would. You, if, at least from what I see, because I'm not on Facebook a lot, but you're not out there like, hey, come shoot over here, come do this on our sets, come do that, like you. But when what I've seen of your sets, like my God, you the amount of work that you put into it, they look phenomenal. What can you tell us about your sets?
Well, the sets have taken like 3 or 4 years to put together, and we've designed the sets so you can redress them, and you can even put blue screen, green screen on them, and change them into entirely different sets. So we're excited about that. In fact, our sets are almost like sound studios in themselves, if it makes sense. Just move the tables and chairs around, throw in some green screen in the background, and voila. But yeah, there's a lot of the physical part. We're excited about that. It's always changing. And we have a we have a captain's room, or should I say a crew quarters. It doubles as a crew quarters. We have a bedroom, a captain's bedroom, which is basically any crew member's bedroom, or it could be turned into another office, with some dressing, where we have one, two, three corridors, so we can shoot from there. We have a science lab, and the science lab can be anything we want to turn it into. So it's not like we're like it's true that we can turn it like into another recreation room, or we use it for the botany bay a lot of times. You know, cover the science computer with plants in the background, and it becomes a recreation room. And then we have the great room, and the great room is what we call our blue screen room. And on our blue screen room, then you can turn it into a green screen by pulling down the uh, the, the drapery, or a white screen, or whatever you want to, just by the drapery behind. Or if you roll it up, it becomes the great room, which means we've used it as a recreation room. We've used it as a briefing room, or we used it as the what was it? The brig, yeah, for the lizard and the turtle that are always fighting each other. So yeah, it's just nice having a room that's multi-purpose. You can use it for everything. In fact, this weekend it's going to turn into a guard shack, because uh, Bomber Girl needs to get on the base, and it's not that easy. So Wola, all of a sudden, it turns into a checkpoint Charlie, and then just put a tables and chairs, and now all of a sudden it turns into Casablanca. You know. So yes. Oh, okay. Wait, hold on a second. Okay, if you want to put it on pause here.
Oh, you're fine, man.
Oh, okay. All right. Hold on. Okay. Then you can edit. No, I'm gonna get it. Okay, fine. Okay, I'm recording right now. I'll get it. Okay, I got it. It's good. It's not bad. Okay, that's the wife concerned. What's the trash
Uh,
outside?
it's all good, man. But that was that was one of the things if memory serves, I the only thing I remember, because you've done so many bits and pieces of films, and then long stretches of film, like you've kind of been all over the spectrum of fan films, and the only thing I really remember about the film was Larry's hair kept changing color,
Correct.
and you wrote that into the film, and he was on set, and I
Yeah.
remember being impressed by that, and that was the first time I really realized, oh shit, these guys they have their own sets, like that's impressive, and there was so much about that I was just blown away by. Um, so that was really really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so nice to have like a real set for a change. It's just tickled me pink, because the first the first 6 years when we started Nature's Hunger, everything was just green screen, and it'll be just so refreshing just to have live sets, you know, and it's just wonderful, because you can do so much wonderful cinematography, with just having live sets. That's what we like it. So we got a balance. There's advantages to both, and if you can use a live set, then that's more power to you.
Yeah, it's one thing that's refreshing about being able to just kind of set up, the camera and just shoot practically and then go, where as opposed to green screen, although it's nice, like if your lighting is not, you
Yeah.
know, accurate, then it can look ultimately fake, and
Yeah,
it's the human eye is it picks up on those things really, really easily. Well, like when you're watching the movie, like, sound is when you're watching a movie, like if you have bad sound, the human ear picks that up really easy and it'll take you out of the movie. Bad CGI is the same way. Like we can tell if something looks, ultimately fake, and it'll take us out of the movie. So green screen, although it can be a helper on the film, it's nice to be able to just sit back on some sets, some physical sets that you can move around in, and have that 3D element, instead of having to worry about, okay, where am I going to in post place this, keyboard or computer monitor, or what exactly am I reacting to, instead of just reacting to something that's physically there. It's such a helper. But I really enjoyed your sets. That was the first time that I really actually um, understood, oh shit, he's not just going somewhere to shoot, he's got something there. And then I saw some of the behind the scenes pictures that you guys were doing, and I
Yeah.
was like, man, these are really, really cool. And being someone who kind of picks apart, like from George Cayenne, or
Oh yeah.
seeing some of the stuff from Neutral Zone or Warp 66, I love to pick apart what other people do and then reinterpret that on my stuff. And yours was no different, because I loved how beautifully you did them, and reinterpreted the 1966 sets. They're just wonderfully done.
Yeah, they were the sets were a joy to make, but painstakingly, it's and then I can really appreciate the original series of them taking apart the what do you call it, the sets, and moving them around and stuff like that,
Yeah.
so I studied the original sets, and how they were able to take apart and create new sets from the old sets and just redress it, right? It's just like, wow, yeah,
Well, one of the
dress it.
one of the things that was one of the things that I appreciated, having seen them taken apart and put together so many times, was the fact that, like the way the wood and stuff were put together, and kind of, they made that into the crevices and whatnot. So it almost is like working together with Legos, and then when you're putting them back together, it's, once you understand how those things are built, it's easier to reinterpret them into a different design, and then say, okay, this is how we're going to slot them together. I can only imagine the headache that it would have been for, like, the Next Generation, or Voyager. Um, yeah, I appreciate those design aesthetics, as opposed, when I was a kid, I didn't really as much. I just thought they looked, that's kind of corny. But now I look at them and I would go, no, they were really smart in how they thought about doing that. Because when you have to tear down and put back up to redress the scene for something else, I didn't really understand that the briefing room was redone into the mess hall, and just redressed into something else. They constantly did that so many times, and it was because lack of budget. But that was really smart.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. You're right about that. How they did the sets and how they're able to redress it and keep reusing it, right? Again and again for new scenes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's really good. So here's a little bit of Trekkie stuff. So going back, when was what was your experience with Star Trek? How did you grow up watching Star Trek? What drew you into that show? And what was your favorite episode growing up?
Well, it's interesting that I was exposed to Star Trek when it came out in 1966. I was a military dependent, and my dad was a sergeant living overseas in Germany. So my first exposure, which actually for the first two seasons, was through comic books, Golden Key comic books. And if you're familiar with the Golden Key, it was uh, they had hired some Italian artists, and they based all the stories and the comic books based on the photographs. So here you have
Yeah.
an artist making comic books, and he never saw the original series because it was being broadcasted in the U.S. And here he is in Italy, and he's putting together Star Trek comics.
Yeah, a lot of those Gold Key comics, my friend, those that remember Steve Atwell, who played Korath, he had sent me some of the Gold Key comics, and
Yeah,
just looking back through them, they were very odd. The colors were off, the stories didn't sound anything. It reminded me a lot of the early books that were printed before they came out with the, oh shoot, I forgot who makes the modern books for Star Trek, but like back in the day when it felt more retro sci-fi than actual Star Trek canon. But that's what the Gold Key comics felt like, was just more retro sci-fi than actual Star Trek.
yeah, yeah.
Because you had like rocket thrusters on the back of the ship, on the warp nacelles, and yeah, it to me it felt.
fire coming out. That's kind of funny.
Yes, 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 you did. Yeah, fire coming out of the warp. Yeah, I love those. I love those elements. I thought that was really funny. Um, but those Gold Key comics, they were something else, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, that's funny that you should say that. In fact, I got some right over here. Yeah, those are definitely collector's items. But whoa, here we man, look at that.
Yep,
The
yep.
first issue, my God. Yeah, in Purposens, Germany, man. When I got
Oh
my
yeah,
first issue, it's like, wow. I said, what? I said, what the heck is what is this stuff? It's kooky crazy, you know.
oh yeah.
It, it was mind
And
blowing.
and
It's just
the thing I like about those adventures is like the alien planets they went to. That felt completely alien. Whereas now, like you go to something and you'll always see a Klingon, or you'll always see a Romulan, or you'll always see a Ferengi, or something like that, you know. But back then, like everything just felt so alien. That's why, like it really
yeah,
did feel like Buck Rogers type. Like you don't know what you're gonna, what you're gonna find, you know. So I love those. And like I said, the little books that they had, where like on the cover you'd see like the fire coming out, and the ship would be flying around this small planet, and you'd see like the little warp trail would be right behind, and it's just to me it was such a wonderful time to be a fan because everything truly felt like the Wild West, you know,
oh
completely
yeah,
unexplored. You know, it's just weird time to be a fan, you know, because you could make anything up and it was completely canon. Whereas now you'd be like, well, technically in 2268, Spock did this, and it's breaks in 2267. And you're like, yep, that's true. Where none of that shit mattered back then. You could be like, it doesn't matter. It's all canon. You know, I love that element from back then. You know, so. Well, what was your favorite episode when you finally got to watching the television show?
City on the Edge of Forever. There was something magical about that. The Guardian of Forever. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
being able to alter or change history, or going into the past. They're just mind blowing.
Hmm.
And
Uh, that was one thing that I the rules of time travel back in TOS I thought was a lot more interesting than we have in next gen, because I think they had like what 2 or 3 episodes of TOS where they traveled in time. I know they had the one episode where
I think there are at least three.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
was say it's at
they,
least two. Yeah, where they because there was one episode where they and don't kill me any original Trekkie that's like you're wrong, and then so I'm not up to date on my TOS canon. But I know there was one episode where they travel back in time to the 1960s and they meet some astronaut and they have to put him back or something like that.
oh yeah, yeah, that's one of them. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. There's that one, and then they go back and they meet Gary Seven.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yep, Gary.
but but they do those things like it's just like willy nilly, like it's just it's another day it's another Tuesday, you
Yep.
know. But I love that about that because it was just like, this is typical, you
Yeah,
know.
they did do a number of time travel shows. That's right.
They they did. I, I I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. So
Yeah.
was in making your Nature's Hunger. What obviously you've done Wizard of Oz, you've done Planet of the Apes, you've done all these other quite a few other inspirations that take hold. It's not just Star Trek that you do. Um, what other sci-fi genres would you say has heavily influenced you on a personal level to be a filmmaker?
I would say World War II. That's why I'm making Bomber Girl. I always wanted to make a World War II film and to do it right and to do it justice. So, and then we just mix it and somehow magically it turns into a Star Trek film too. So I'm already doing it. I would love to make a Vietnam War film, Apocalypse Now. Yep. And we're that's like in the future crystal ball. We'll like to do. I want to do a couple of war films. And just getting wiggling it in there in the storyline. I mean, we've been collecting the uniforms, and back in the Vietnam War era, because when I joined, I was at the end of the Vietnam War area. But I definitely got to do some war films. I was I was a background extra in Billy Lynn's long halftime walk. Spent a week on that. So I got a chance to be in a war film, and see how Hollywood puts it together. It's okay. I want to do my own now, now that I see
What
how it's
was
together.
what was that like being on an actual Hollywood movie?
It fantastic. I'd say I did it because I wanted to be able to experience what's it like to actually be in a Hollywood film. And I think it was worth it, not for the money because they don't pay much, but everyone I've talked to that's in an extra, all right, or the background extra, as they say, I think you get a chance to see behind the scenes because you're doing it to be immersed in what's going on behind the scenes. You get a chance to see the director, putting to capturing what he wants. You get to actually work with the actors. Like on Billy Lynn's long halftime walk, I got a chance to work with Steve Martin. You're not supposed to talk to him on a professional level, but you're working with him there. In fact, I didn't even think. I just watched the show came out 8 years, was filmed 8 years ago, and I finally watched it. And I said, nah, because if you're a background extra, you realize in 9 out of 10 cases, you're not going to end up being in the film because they focus you out, right? So they can focus on the main actors. Or when that scene comes up, you just get out, you get cut out, because they just can't use you. But I'm actually in the film. And I said, man, that's me. I was one of the photographers when Steve Martin comes out. Steve Martin plays the bad guy, the antagonist for Billy Lynn, um, and he is out there and he's making a speech. And they as a background actor, they wanted me to be the photographer, fake it, look like you're actually what do you call it, shooting pictures,
right.
of the war heroes and Steve Martin. In fact, I was laughing at it when I saw it because when they gave me a camera and it was like, kind of like a dead camera. It's a dead prop. But when I saw the film, they actually added the flash photography to it. I said, holy cow, that they they added flash photography to it, to make it look like, I just clicked a button and took, so they did a real fine job on that, but it's just nice being there, working with the actors and just being able to help contribute to the film production, and you see it from a professional level where you have so many people that you're there, they give you your costume, tell you what to do, but it's up to you to interpret so that you're basically, what is it? You're a background person that fills in the gaps, so the actors in the front can make it look like, should I say, you're helping to create an imaginary world in the background and make it
You
look
are,
so that the actors shine in the front, if that makes sense. I
yeah.
mean,
So you are world building in a sense, and you're helping in your own small way doing that.
correct. And then you put a whole bunch of background actors in the back, and it looks like a real world, right?
That's awesome. So
It is.
you did get to see yourself. That is very. What was the name of that movie?
Billy Lynn's long halftime walk. So war
Huh.
movie came out about 8 years ago, and it's on DVD now. I haven't seen it on on Netflix or whatever. It unfortunately the film bombed because it just I guess it came out at a time where people weren't interested in war films of this stuff, but it does cover the PTSD of soldiers, which I thought was interesting. It was a very good background story, But
Well, a lot of times the movies that bomb are usually the better ones because
yeah,
those are the ones that people put their heart and soul into, and the big budget, the big the blockbuster ones that people go to see. Those are nice, but those pay for the ones that people can then go and the what are the heart and soul, those they can do the pleasure ones that they
that's
enjoy, you know what I mean? So I mean there's no shame in not being part of a or having a film under your belt that doesn't make a billion gajillion dollars. Those films those are the ones people love more usually, So
Yeah, in fact, it was revolutionary at the time. They wanted to experiment when they did the film. You know how most films are 24 frames per second, right? Well, this one was 124 frames per second. And the reason for that, of course, shot in 4K, is so that it would present a real life appearance. Does that make sense? Like, like it
yeah,
look,
yeah,
it's just amazing. They tried it,
that's awesome. That
it
is
is.
awesome, man. So going on to Bomber Girl, what you say you guys have about maybe 5 months left of shooting, and
Yeah,
then
well,
can you,
yeah, yeah, I would say so. I mean, we're going to do it right because I think I really love the story. There, I don't want to give away what it is, but there is a story within a story with Bomber Girl. Yes, it is a Star Trek fan film, and we will. I talked to the actors of how it was. We what is it the crew of the Crusader is in there. So I said, you know, there I had to think of how do I tie it in and make it exciting. And then I thought of one of my favorite films, the Throlian Web, and I said, there it is. I saw the Throlian Web. I say, there it is. That's Bomber Girl. So we're giving like salutes to a lot of my favorite films, and one of it was the Throlian Web, where the Enterprise comes across, this other starship that's trapped between dimensions, and it's the same thing with Bomber Girl, a World War II bomber that's trapped between dimensions, and it shows up in the Star Trek era.
do you guys have anything planned after Bomber Girl, or is that
Well,
your main focus on for at the
we're
time?
doing a lot of concurrent ones that we're working on and experimenting and finding out. We're doing two Planet of the Apes films. We're doing Scream of the Ape, all right, which is basically taking the Planet of the Apes and putting it in a holodeck Star Trek experience. But believe it or not, all these other B movies managed to get into it, if that makes sense. So it's
Yep.
grandfather's Planet of the Apes. It is a whole bunch of if you're a fan of B movies, then Scream of the Ape will make sense to you because all these B movies managed to come out and crawl into the woodwork. And all Ramses wants to do is relive his Planet of the Apes adventure. But the Crusader computer doesn't wants to do its own thing because I guess the essence of the story is that you have a computer that does a random story, if that makes sense. So it's exciting because they run into a lot of different things. Like,
Look, I have one question.
uh-huh,
Is Godzilla going to show up? Because I think that would be awesome.
I can't,
To
won't.
You're teasing me now. You're
No,
teasing me.
not. But it has a lot of mind blowing scenarios, that we thought about. Zombies, zombie apes, uh, Zan- uh, Outer Limits. One of my favorite episodes was the Zanti War, with the Zanti Warriors Misfits, the Zanti Misfits, and I was just terrorized as a kid of those bugs that have like a human like head. It's just like so mind blowing. I said, well, what if they showed up on Planet of the Apes? How would our crew react to them? Stuff like that.
Well, that's one thing I've been watching. Um, Past couple of weeks, I've been watching Twilight Zone, and
Right.
I'm now I think probably maybe a third of the way through the second season.
Uh huh.
And those stories, man, I tell you, I've always loved Twilight Zone, Outer Limits. I love the remake Outer Limits back in the '90s when that came out.
Right.
Um, but I love the classic, the black and white stuff, just 'cause I feel like that's a little bit more creepier.
Oh,
Having that black and white element.
you love it. You can't help but love it. Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's great. It's good stuff. But like I think classic science fiction, your Buck Rogers, your Twilight Zone, your Outer Limits, your Lost in Space. You know, your stuff that's, you know, some of it pre Star Trek, some of it around the time of Star Trek, like a lot of that stuff, it's just it was just tiptoeing out of, you know, we were just getting out of the cowboy element and tipping into the space, and
That's
we
right.
had no idea what any of the stuff was. So of course we have people on Mars and people on Venus and
Right.
people, you know, and you know, a lot of those were there, you know, for storytelling, you know, because we didn't know anything about that. We, you know, there was so much in the universe, you know. But I love those stories. Just for some
Oh
of
yeah.
them are cheesy, but they give you so much. What if? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, they were cheesy, but you loved them because in their, with their production values, their budgets, I think they had enough. What do you call it? Enough excitement in there to keep your interest. It just
Oh
like
yeah.
it's like, yeah, for the 1960s, yeah, not bad. Considering their budgets and stuff and their limited special effects, right? They still managed to captivate your interest, right?
Well, they did what the movie Alien did. Have you seen the movie Alien
Oh
with
yeah,
Sigourney Weaver?
yeah, yeah. I think I saw all of them. In fact, there's a new Alien coming out.
Yeah, I think they're coming out with a TV series or something on Hulu with the Alien franchise or something. I think, or I'm not sure. There's so much media coming out nowadays. It's hard to keep track of
I
all that.
do that. I
But
think we're trying to do a movie. That's right, a new movie, and do
yeah,
a series. That's right, correct.
but the one thing I think Alien did right. Because if you watch the first Alien, like that was definitely a horror movie, and the second one, it veered from the horror genre and it's more of an action movie. It just had horror elements to it, but it was more of an action movie. But when you go back to the first Alien, you didn't see much of the monster.
Correct.
You
Yes,
know, your mind filled in the gap.
that is.
Um,
It was
it
wonderful strategy. If you think
yeah,
about one
yeah,
strategy,
it had, you know, you saw bits and pieces. You'd see a little bit of the face,
that's
you'd
right.
see a hand here, you'd see a tail here, and it'd zip around the corner. But your mind would fill in the gap.
That's correct.
And, and that's why I say by the time we get to the second one, I mean, you're seeing full blown body aliens left, you know, left and right, and you see 20 of them, and it's not a horror movie anymore. It's an action movie. I mean, it's basically like, you know, it's a war movie in space with bug aliens. You know,
Right.
it's and again, both movies are just as good. It's just they're different genres. I feel. Um,
True.
but the first one, it did what I think the Twilight Zone did well, and what Outer Limits did well, with a limited budget.
Yes,
Your mind filled in the gaps,
that's correct. Yes,
and I
and that's
love that.
rather wonderful, right? Using people's imaginations, right, to scare the hell out of them.
Yeah. Use your own imagination to scare the hell out of you, and I'm just going to drip you the information and let you do it. You know, like the last one I think I saw, that springs to mind was the two astronauts go to Mars, and the one guy dies in the Mars pad or the Mars spaceship, and he hears knocking, and by the time he opens it up, they're so happy to meet him and everything. They're like, "Oh, come down, chill with us. Well, you know, before you go back, you know, hey, why don't you chill with us for a bit?" He's like, "Oh, awesome, cool. You know, yeah, my friend's dead. You know, whatever." And they're like, "Hey, we replicated this house for you. Why don't you chill here? Well, you know, if you want to chill with us for a while longer before you go back." He's like, "Oh, yeah, of course I will. Oh man, this is great." He lights up a cigarette, which I'm like, "Oh, that would never get by these days." And the public
Oh,
television, no, that's
that was the culture. Yeah, that's right.
oh yeah, that's try to get that past, you know, TV censors, you know. But he lights up a cigarette. He has his, you know, alcohol there, and he's just, you know, and then he opens up he tries to open up a door, can't get out. And he tries to open the front door, can't get out. And he opens up the blinds, and it's nothing but a wall. And he's like, "What the hell?" And then the thing, and you see all these Martians that are right there, and
Yeah, I remember.
it's locked behind bars. Yeah, and then he pulls out the sign that says like, "This cage is for a human," or whatever, exhibit for a human. And he's
Yeah,
like, "Ah, you suckers! Oh, what's going on here? Yeah, let me out!" Yeah, and
yeah. Like, what is it? Everything's the same all over, something like that. The title.
yes, Yes, yes. See, you know these things. I'm not that smart. I don't remember. Yes.
I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was like it's stuff like that where it's like it by today's standards, it's cheesy as hell. But I loved it because it's like I want to take this journey with you, even though I know it's like it's not. That's but like it's cool because you're like I'm willing to forget reality and I'll take this journey with you because it's so cool. It's a good story because like it takes you back to the beginning of that conversation when the one guy's like, I gotta believe there's some good out there. Like everybody's all the same all over. Like everyone's just like us. It's gotta be. And then you get to the end and they're like, well, they are like us, but not in the good way. Like we're kind of some shitty people sometimes, you know. And it's just like, oh man, you know. But I love how they did a lot with like a little bit of a budget, and you're just like, this is. I mean, they probably just with that house that they had, they probably just walked down to an I Love Lucy set. Where I'm like, hey, let's use this, house set we got here, and I mean, it was again a lot with very little, and I love the fact that you're able to do those things with classic sci-fi. I love that it was able to work the imagination. Every one of those films. Um, and I think again they did it on 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
It's good,
Right.
good stuff.
Get it down. That's right. And that's good. You mentioned they had to use existing sets. You're right there. Cut on
Yeah.
budget costs down. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they did the same thing on one of the outer or one of the um, Twilight Zones about the guy who's writing, and if he talks about something, it creates that. And when he cuts the film and throws it in the fire, it erases what he just talked about. And his wife catches him cheating at the beginning of the film or at the beginning of the episode. And he brings that lady back like 2 or 3 times, and it's a real jerk move. And his wife keeps trying to get out of the house because she's like, I'm gonna call you, I'm gonna get you for being crazy. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? This guy can literally make anything. And he makes like an elephant in the house to stop her from leaving. And I'm like, this dude's nuts. What are you doing? And then like he throws her envelope into the fire and erases her, and then he creates. I'm like, this is
Yes.
the hell is this? Like, this is nuts, dude. I mean, they were like, I'm like, I want to meet whoever wrote this. These people were crazy. They were writing some crazy stuff, But
Yeah, you're
they
right.
were,
With budgets, right? But they were well endowed with imagination and
oh
creativity.
yeah, yeah. All that takes place in one room. Yeah, it was just one room, but it was great. Like to me, it reminded me of like theater. How you're given like, hey, you got this, ad lib and go, and it's just good storytelling. And but yeah, I love stories like that, and I think
Yeah, that's true. You're onto something, Vance. One set, right? Fan films. I remember I saw a fan film. They only used one set, and the set was only a chair, right? I think several fan films have done it. Wasn't there one with like Mr. Spock, and then one with an astronaut that went into space? But the novelty of it is that it's just the astronaut sitting in the chair, nothing else.
yeah,
And you go through that range of his emotions, right, to tell the story, and that's it.
yeah. When you're
That's the
when
whole.
you're forced Yeah, when you're forced to be creative, like everybody thinks like they write their scripts and they write this, Captain Kirk finds God in the middle of the universe and he has and they write those type of stories and it's like this over the top grandiose, and you're like real life Star Trek film, like scale it back some. Like what do you have available to you? Like if you have a big front yard next to the woods, dude, landing party. If what do you have available to you? I mean, that's why, like, if you go back to classic Star Trek, why did so many towns look like, the 1960s or, an old West cowboy town? Like, because that was existing sets on the Paramount lot that they could use and save themselves some money, and that's what fan film people should do is use what's available to you. You don't have to spend yourself out of budget or take your retirement savings to go make a fan film. Just look around you and what do I have? And it's easier when you have friends. Hey, I want to do this. Can you help? Sure, I'll help. Can you? Yep, I'll help. But use what you have available and then make your story around what you have. And
That's so
that's what I like. That's what I like about what you do is you work with, Larry and Leslie and, so many wonderful people that help you get that vision out there. And you got some great stories,
that are willing to do it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
belief vision, right? Because they say, explain what's the vision here, so I can, because I confused. Where we were on the bridge. Now we're on this planet in another scene. So bridge that gap for me. Explain what the hell is going on. And I had to explain. Well, here's how we got from point A to point B. Yeah.
So real quick before we go, is it just the film that you're working on right now that's coming up next, or do you have anything else before then that you're going to be releasing?
I'll say we have Bomber Girl. We have Scream of the Ape. Okay, that's more closer to the movie. We have Don't Go Ape, which is more closer towards a reinventing of Planet of the Apes. Uh, and then we have the Fighting Chance saga that's going on. And there's so many plot stories within there. So a Fighting Chance is more like 3 or 4 stories within a story, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'll say we got our hands full, with all that.
Well, right on, man. Well, there was one other thing that you did do, and this was a personal thing that you did for me, and this was for. And I've been very guarded on what I release publicly and what I talk about publicly, but you did do for me Constar the motion picture. You did a scene for me in that, and this was a battle scene for me. What can you tell me about your experience there and what it was like to do that scene for me in that film?
I think I had to study the script and try to envision the role that I was playing, what the expectations were. And I always ask how I should play it, whether the guy is half crazy, or, is he completely sane, to do it, it just bothers because you have to draw, right? Try to sketch out that character so it comes out well on the screen, what you're after, uh, a character that's memorable.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, you're in it for, oh hell, I think it's maybe 2 minutes long, the scene. I think maybe 2.5 minutes. But I gotta say, it's a highlight to have you in that. When I asked you to take part in it, and you did, it was a joy to have you come back for that. Because you're reprising, in a sense, you're reprising the mirror universe Ramses.
Yes, right. Yes, yes.
And I say in a sense because I don't want to spoil it for too many people out there, but I gotta say it's always a thrill to see you play in a film of mine. And I gotta say, my friend Drew, he's a huge fan of yours, and I waited. I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him that you were in it. I didn't tell him nothing until the scene was done, and then I was like, "Hey, Drew, check this out," and he was like, "Dude, my boy's back," So I gotta say, some V-Man fans are Joe Cepeda fans, and I gotta say, I can't wait to show the audience, hey, Ramses is back. At least on the Constar front. So I gotta say, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do that for me. And I know Royce, you made him happy in that scene because it wouldn't have been the same without you in your part there. So I gotta say, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be in your film. It's definitely not, and it gives you a chance to work outside your filming so that you can participate in other people's films. So I think it's,
absolutely. So, all right. Well, on that note, I think I'll let you go. It's been about 45 minutes that I've held on to you, and I'll let you go. So, on that note, Joe, we look forward to seeing what we got coming from you, and whenever it comes out, send us.
Yep.
Good deal. Good deal. So on that note, Joe, have a good rest of your night. And everybody at home, thank you for joining us. And if you guys like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you guys thought. And go to Star Trek Nature's Hunger, hit the subscribe button over there, and show them some support, because they're one of the most friendliest group of people that you'll ever meet out there. And on that note, be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.